Welcome to Grant's Rock Warehouse, and tonight we are looking at the prog band STARCASTLE. Rand Kelly's back. Of course, Rand is prog, and prog is Rand. So let's get started. This is
Talking bands no one talks about. Grant's Rock Warehouse.
Welcome to Grant's Rock Warehouse, and tonight I want to welcome Rand Kelly to the show. Tonight we are going to take a look at the catalog of 70s prog band STARCASTLE. Rand, you ready to talk some STARCASTLE?
You bet.
All right, well, we're going to do it. STARCASTLE, band from Champaign, Illinois, started out in 1969. They got signed to Epic Records in 1974 and put out their first album, self-titled debut, in 1976. The band ended up putting out 3 more records for Epic before they disbanded. But the funny thing is that this band never really took off. I think the most successful record that they had was the first studio album. And after that, each record sold less, and less. So after 1978, they broke up. They did reconvene and put out another record, Song of Times, in 2007. So we're going to look at that. That album's really kind of hard to come by. You know, I was able to listen to some tracks of it, but it's not like it's readily available. But we're going to take a look. What's that?
Excuse me. I got mine when it first released.
Of course you did. Of course you did. But anyway, we're going to take a look at these albums, just go through them, and then we'll rank them at the end. The whole idea for this show is to turn you on to something. Hopefully, we can turn you on to STARCASTLE because, well, Rand and I were talking a little bit before we started. He said, no one's really talking about this band anymore. I mean, we're talking a very good, talented American prog band. These guys could play. We're going to get into it, and it's just kind of, I don't know. I don't think that they're forgotten within prog circles, but I think that they should have been way more well known than they are. Do you agree with that, Rand?
Well,
What's your thoughts on that?
I think they suffer from Klaatu syndrome, where people say they sound too much like like Klaatu sounded too much like the Beatles.
Well, I think STARCASTLE sounds way more like Yes than Klaatu sounds like the Beatles. I will say that.
Well, that's
it's
true.
Unbelievable. And I don't know what the idea was behind that. Did the record company feel that they needed a band that could compete with Yes? Epic needed a prog band that can compete with Atlantic. I don't know. Maybe someone in the comments might know, but they do really sound a lot like Yes. I will.
Epic didn't put out hardly any prog. I mean, their biggest band was Boston.
Yeah. This is all around the same time.
Same year. Yeah. They were making all that money with Boston, so STARCASTLE toured with them. They were opening for Boston.
Yeah, I think that these guys opened for quite a lot of different acts. What I remember, I think they played for, okay.
Headline.
Jethro Tull, Gentle Giant, Fleetwood Mac, Boston and Rush, Journey. They opened for all those people, and among others. But very talented musicians. And I was going to say that there is a connection to REO Speedwagon. Terry Luttrell is the vocalist for the band. He joined them in 1973. He was the original vocalist for REO Speedwagon. He got fired from that band. They actually dumped him out in the highway, out in the middle of the country when they got rid of him. I don't know what happened, but
that's awful.
That's what I heard. They just dumped him out in the country.
God.
And but anyway, he got hooked up with the band STARCASTLE and sang for them. And you know what's amazing is that he sounds nothing like he did with REO Speedwagon.
No, that's true. I listened to the whole album the other day on Apple iTunes, and I'm not an REO Speedwagon fan, but I would have to say the best album I've ever heard from them is the debut with Terry. I thought it was good.
It's a good debut.
157
Riverside Avenue.
Yeah, that's a great song.
Yeah. So we're going to take a look at their catalog, and let's start out with the first album. Rand, what's your I'm going to let you talk about this stuff pretty much, because I like the catalog. I think the band sounds great, but they really do sound like Yes to me. I mean, the guitar. Go ahead. Yeah. The guitar playing sounds like Steve Howe, and obviously it's a Rickenbacker bass because Gary Strader, the bass player, sounds just like Squire.
Yeah, I saw a picture of it in the booklet. You know, I think what sets apart this band from Yes, and I kind of hinted at it before we went on the air, is that this band has two guitar players and they do a lot of dual harmonies. They're kind of like a progressive Thin Lizzy.
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot of bands out there doing stuff like that, you know?
Mm-mm.
And so it's interesting that that would occur.
Yeah. So the first studio album, 1976. We've got three tracks on side one. Lady of the Lake leads it off. Elliptical Seasons is the next track. It's only 4 minutes and 27 seconds, and then it ends with Forces, which is 6 minutes 25 seconds. What's your thoughts on this album? I mean, we've got Terry singing lead,
I love it.
Matthew Stewart on electric guitar, Steven Hagler on electric guitar, and the great
and acoustic
Gary Strader on bass and Moog.
Yeah, there's really nice 12-string acoustic on this album too. That is very laid back, and a lot of people don't talk about that because it's, you know, it's color.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, what do you think about this record?
Oh, I love it. I think it's fantastic. What a debut. And it came out at a really good time. I mean, you know, I was at the Works in Eureka, California, and my friend Andy Robertson, there's a plug for you, Andy, was working there at the time. And he had two new albums in his hands. He just came in. He goes, one of them I really know very well. I love Rush 2112, and the other one was STARCASTLE. And he goes, I don't know nothing about this, but God, look at the cover, Rand. He goes, this has got to be like, you know, the kind of music we like. And at the time in 76, we were using the term progressive rock. We weren't using the term prog. Prog came much later. In fact, I don't think it showed up until neo-prog in about 1992. But anyway, that's for a different story. Yeah, great
There
cover.
it is.
I mean, it just screams progressive, doesn't it? Yeah.
There he is. There's Terry Luttrell up there in the
Yeah. And that
top
keyboard player, Herb Schilt,
Mm-hmm.
I fell in love with his sound immediately. I thought, oh my God, this guy's a Rick Wakeman fanatic. He loves that sound, like from Six Wives Henry VIII and Journey to the Center of the Earth. There's a lot of good mini mode. One thing about the first StarCastle album, it opens up with a guitar all by itself, but it sounds like a mini mode. I swear to God. In fact, I've got a mini mode right here, and I can play the opening.
There it is.
And that's a guitar on the album, but
it must be a guitar synth or something. Is it a guitar synth?
Well, they didn't really have them in 76. They were very, 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 very rare. And
77 Sticks used it on Grand Illusion.
They didn't work very well back then. Steve Howe had one. He didn't even like it, you know. But anyways, yeah, the guitar synthesizer really came to the fore on the King Crimson Discipline album in 1981. But I just fell in love with StarCastle. Andy played me Lady of the Lake, and I was sold. I bought it like immediately. And I might have bought 2112 that day too, because I really wasn't a Rush fan yet, you know, and I think I started with that album. But
you're already a Yes fan though by this point.
Oh yeah, a big Yes fan. And the thing is, in 76, Yes was doing all these solo albums. You know, Chris Squire had done Fish Out of Water. Patrick Moraz was doing The Story of I, or they called it I back then. Steve Howe had Beginnings, and Alan White had Ramshackled, and John Anderson had Elias of Sun Hillo. I think I got them all. And Yes wasn't doing anything. They were kind of like, you know, in between Relayer and Going for the One, and we hadn't heard Going for the One yet. So I thought, well, hell, you know, if StarCastle sounds like Yes, just bingo. I don't care. You know, that's a pretty.
It checks that box for you.
Yeah, but that's a pretty great band to, you know, be compared to, I think.
Well, yeah.
You got to be good to get compared to Yes. This would be like putting a band together and say somebody, you guys sound like Frank Zappa. I mean, wouldn't that be quite a compliment?
It would be a compliment. I think
Gentle Giant got that compliment from
Frank Zappa. I think that the criticism was that they were too Yes sounding.
Yeah, you know, that's in the vocals, but when you think about it, the harmonies these guys do
sound totally different.
They're much more like Crosby, Stills, and Nash and Young to me than they are Yes. But because they do that da, 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 da. They do a lot of that stuff, and we heard that like in the Judy Blue Eyes and, you know, those days, and that was like 69. And so, you know, that was already happening. but the singers in this band are just absolutely stunning. Every one of them.
Mm-hmm.
There's like 5 vocalists in this group. They can all sing.
Yeah, I was looking at the production.
Sorry about that.
They have two different producers, two different engineers, Norm Kenny and Tony Vicari. And I'm not sure what
I've never heard of either.
uh I guess Tony worked with Quincy Jones, Gina Vanelli, Prince, George Duke. Yeah, I've never heard any. He's won 2 Grammy Awards. I think his work on this record sounds great, though. I don't have a problem with it. The next 2 records that we're going to look at are Roy Thomas Baker productions, so
Oh yeah,
that's kind of cool.
they really. I really believe that Roy Thomas Baker hit his zenith with Starcastle. To me, the music sounds better than what he did with Queen. But then again, it was a few years earlier, of course. But I
Right.
mean, my God,
Well,
the sonics, or whatever you call it, the quality
mhm.
of Fountains of Light and Citadel are just stunning.
Well, anyway,
So,
what would you? Well, I'm just going to ask you while we're doing it. What would you rate this out of 10? If someone's getting into the band, is
oh, I
this
was going to tell you something you're not going to want
what?
to hear.
What?
I think the first 3 are 10s.
That's fine. Like I said, Ryan, we're just trying to turn people on, you know.
Yeah, I
But
love the debut so much. I mean, it's in my blood. I listened to it so much because while I was waiting for Yes to put out another album, I used to have this saying that I made up. Life is just, what would I say? Life is waiting for the next Yes album. That's a Yes fan.
mhm,
And you know, like I said, I was listening to the solo albums and stuff like that, and of course I thought Chris Squire had the most Yes-like sound as far as the album goes.
mhm.
And I thought, oh man, Starcastle's just, they're nailing it. It's so good. And it's American, you know, it's American, Midwest. And they
Yeah,
sound like they're from Mars. It's
sound like you're from the UK.
no.
If you're gonna compare this record to something, is there an era of Yes for the person that probably hasn't heard this band that you would compare it to, or do you think these guys are just
Oh,
totally independent?
yeah. If you were going to compare the debut of Starcastle, I think the closest you could come to is the Yes album.
Okay, so if you like that, ladies and gentlemen, you probably would like this record.
But on the other hand, on that album, there's not a lot of mini moog. There's a very little of it.
Hmm.
But I wouldn't say that Herb Schilt sounds anything like Tony Kaye. But I was just talking about the songs themselves.
Hmm.
Fragile, yeah, Fragile,
Yeah.
sure. With Rick Wakeman, oh yeah. More so with Fragile, I think, than Yes album. I wouldn't say Close to the Edge because Close to the Edge is, you know, that's on a different shelf
Hmm.
as far as I'm concerned. It's the greatest album ever recorded.
But I think this is a good debut.
Oh
So
yeah.
after this, they put out Fountains of Light from 1977. In fact, they put 2 albums out in 1977. This was the first of the 2 albums that was produced by Roy Thomas Baker.
Yep.
Um,
Mine looks a little grainy, probably because my computer camera's not very I
but
don't
again,
need it.
super artwork,
Hang on.
you know.
Clean this there. Maybe make a difference. I don't know if it did.
Yeah, it's okay. But super great artwork on here.
Oh yeah.
But as I mentioned before, with each record, they sold less and less. This was recorded up in
Well, you know,
Canada.
Grant, I lived through this. They didn't get any radio airplay. Nobody played these guys.
What do you think? 77? Well, I'm thinking Rush was doing stuff.
I mean, the first 2 songs on the first 2 albums are 10 minutes long.
Yeah,
And
Fountains is 1025.
they do have edits, but Fountains, yeah, nobody played these songs on the radio. Never. So that hurt them, I think, as far as sales. And because, like, you know, it's like exposure, exposure, exposure. You know, if you don't get it, nobody knows you exist.
Hmm.
And then when all the scuttlebutt comes out, like say around the time of Going for the One, it's already a major album. Then people are talking about Starcastle sounding like Yes, and then everybody's going, "Oh, they're just Yes wannabes." You know what I mean? Because they don't sound anything like Relayer or
No,
Tales of Topographic Oceans.
no, they seem to hone in on one certain
Fragile,
era of Yes.
yeah, I'd say 72, 71, 72. Fragile, a little bit of the Yes album, but not really. You
And
know,
I don't know if that was on purpose. I don't know. Maybe that's just the way they
I don't
sound.
either. But the first 3 Epic albums to me are absolutes.
Yeah, the first three I think are really something. There's really,
I love them.
and it seems like when Starcastle was, they played since 69. They got signed to 74. First album came out in 76. Think about all that. By the time they got to record that first album, they pretty much had everything honed in, because I listened to the first record, then Fountains of Light, and then Citadel, and those records are all very similar. It's not like it's like Yes seem to progress with each record. These guys don't, the first three, I don't see much of a progression.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Everything's fine. Everything's great. It sounds great. I don't have a problem with it, but I don't hear any major leaps.
I was going to say that, Grant, because these three,
mm-hmm.
they're a trilogy, as far as I'm concerned. They go together very well. They just, you get the one and you get Fountains of Light, and you go, holy crap, these guys are really doing it, and then Citadel's a little more concise. There's no long epics on it, but God, the songs are great. The harmonies are just, hey.
But man, the artwork on these are great.
I know. I just got the T-shirt.
And then
I tried to find the debut T-shirt, but it doesn't exist. They did put out Fountains of Light, though. And what's weird about that album is they never give you the lyrics. They give you the lyrics on everything else. Oh no, that's right. The first album didn't have the lyrics either.
Yeah.
On the LP. The only lyrics they gave out were Fountains of Light and the fourth album.
Which we'll get to. So do you think Roy Thomas Baker was a good producer for this band?
Yeah, and it's amazing. I don't think he ever did any other things for Epic. That was I think that was a one-off that he did twice. Because he was with Queen and they were on Elektra, which is really Warner Brothers.
Well, they were on Elektra, but they really were on EMI.
The Cars were on Elektra, which is really Warner Brothers. So when he does Starcastle, it's Epic, which is really Columbia, which is now Sony. But Epic was a subsidiary of Columbia. And so I don't know if that has anything to do with record labels and what producers come in, but I just think that Roy Thomas Baker, he just realized how to make this band sound. They went from, like a quartz crystal to a diamond, I think. And it's funny because the last song on Fountains of Light is called Diamonds.
Yeah, is there any particular
song, Deep as the Light?
Are there any particular tracks on here that you really enjoy?
On Fountains of Light? I just love them all. I think they're great. Silver Winds is
really like a big fanboy. Come on, Rand, give me some dirt. But he likes the record. I get it.
Yeah.
Hopefully, if you will be turned on, you want to go check it out.
I am such a Starcastle fan.
All right.
I really am. I mean, I've listened to these albums so many times. I've got 2 or 3 LPs of Fountains of Light. I was collecting them for a while.
What, trying to keep them all for yourself, or
because they were used and they were like perfect shape and they were like $1. Why not?
Yeah, I remember seeing, I don't know what these records go for now, but these were all $1 records.
Well,
it's kind of a shame.
You turned me on to that they were being remastered by Rock Candy, and I didn't know that, so I was really glad to get those. I got all 3 of them from Rock Candy.
Yeah, I've only got, well, not all mine.
And then my reel-to-reel I got from Japan. It's a Japanese SHM kind of fancy dancy kind of sound. I mean, sound.
Right.
So this is the title of the 4th album. And you can just tell by looking at the cover, there's something different going on here. Look on the back.
They seem happy.
It's 1978. They look like they've lost their gravity and they're going to fly off of the planet. Well, they've got this really haunting farmhouse, like with this thing on the top. And it's black and white. Everything's different. And here, look at this. Here's the inside of the cover. Check this out.
Well, what, yours is blank?
It's blank.
I've got the lyrics, and
I got the lyrics too. Mine are in Japanese, and
this is American. The Renaissance. This is the Renaissance.
I mean, Japanese and.
So we could talk about that because we do like the first 3 albums are all the same.
I don't know what label this is on, actually.
But this marked a major change. There's very little prog on here. It's much more AOR. Like I said, they kept going, and this record didn't do anything. The critics didn't like, the fans didn't like it.
I think they kowtowed to record company pressure, management, and they said, you guys need to give us a hit and stop playing that weird music. And they put out REO Speedwagon 1.5.
Well, I do want to make a comment.
He
When
sounds
I was
so much
listening,
like REO Speedwagon on this.
okay. The track, What You're Gonna Do When It All Comes Down on You,
What you gonna do when it all comes down
okay.
on you?
There's an REO Speedwagon album, the one that says it's called REO On from 1976.
Oh, that's the one with the cow leather.
Yeah, that's the one that they call Cow.
Yeah.
That sounds just like that record. Same kind of melody, same kind of chorus. It's very similar. So I don't know if that was intentional. Well, I think you're right. I think the record company probably went, you know what, boys? You put out 3 records. This prog does not sell.
Yeah.
We need a hit, or
Yeah.
we're going to drop you.
So the opening number, Half a Mind to Leave You, it shocked me when I first heard it. I went, first of all, it sounded really weird. The producer's name is Jeffrey Lesser. So I said, it's a lesser production than Roy Thomas Baker.
I'm not sure what Jeffrey Lesser's pedigree is.
I never heard of him.
But when it first starts off, it's got kind of that proggy keyboard intro, and I'm okay. Because I thought, oh, well, it's another prog, it's proggy. But then it just stops and starts going into AOR like immediately.
Yeah, I know it. They got normal because I think they had to. And then the fans turned on the band and said, no, this is what we want. We like the other stuff. But there weren't enough fans. See, this is the thing that Genesis learned how to do. They realized that they couldn't keep playing the same style. So every album got less proggy as it went along. And finally, Abacab and the Shapes album has no prog. And they got bigger.
But the thing is, this is my theory. Now, you guys can be all angry and disagree.
I say what I think.
No. What was beautiful about Genesis is that the band, absolutely brilliant. Yeah, they could play prog all day, but they took it as far as they could. What are they going to do? Keep repeating what they're doing? The thing is, they had to go in a different direction. For one, you have bills to pay. Yeah, I'm sure there's people that like that stuff.
Yeah.
But the beautiful thing is, Genesis could write perfect pop songs. Absolutely perfect. These guys are such good writers. You want perfect pop song? We can do that. Well, now, prog and doing these stuff and, playing extended solos and just doodling, that's not really hard. That's all, you know what I mean?
Follow You, Follow Me was the beginning of it.
It was brilliant.
They closed a great album, which I love. I love And Then There Were Three. And they closed that album with Follow You, Follow Me. And I thought, uh-oh, I see what Genesis is doing now. They're going to, and then Duke had more of it.
It was great.
I love commercial songs on Duke. It.
I love that whole Phil Collins era.
I do too.
I like it.
I jumped ship on We Can't Dance because I just can't listen to that album.
Well, I got kind of that album. They weren't as good. They had their moment. Okay.
I'll take.
But the thing is, with STARCASTLE, they had a lot of great moments. So
that's right. We're talking STARCASTLle. I forgot.
Yeah, we go on tangents in the Warehouse, But this record, Reel to Reel.
Oh my God.
1978.
Yeah. Contractual Obligation album, I think.
I don't know. I think it's a last hurrah album. I think they could have kept going had they had a hit, but it didn't go anywhere. And I don't think, even though it got bad reviews, I really don't think it's a bad record.
I don't think so either.
I think a bad record. Get over that preconceived notion that these guys are prog, and you'll be fine.
Well, that's it. That's it. It goes back to my little theory about what if it was their only album. It's a good album.
Yeah.
It's a good rock album. I mean, it goes kind of along with April Wine and, some of those bands. It's it's not fancy. There's a little bit of synthesizer playing in it, but mostly it's organ. A lot of organ on this album.
Mm-hmm.
And the vocals are, again, stellar. But, you know, I like When the Sun Shines at Midnight. I like the stars are out tonight. And She is a great song. I love We Did It. We Did It's really cool. We Did It sounds like they're singing to the record company and saying, you know, we did the first 3 albums and now you're making us do this. It's like, and they knew, I think they knew if they played music that wasn't in their hearts really that much, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And see, I've been a musician for 50 years, and if you're told to play a certain thing that you don't want to play, you won't play good, you won't sound good, and you won't be happy. And I think that's what happened to this band. I just don't think they were happy making this record, but I think they were under pressure to make it.
Well, they look happy.
Yeah, but that's just a
Look how happy.
That's
They're
just
happy.
the photographer saying, "Hey, do this."
I like it that they have belly shirts.
I was gonna say that's Steven Tassler's the drummer.
Mm-hmm.
That's his probably got it from his girlfriend.
I don't know if they're trying to look like, I don't know.
Well, Latrell's not even wearing a shirt.
Well, that's because he's a man. He doesn't need
He's doing a Mark Farner.
But Robert Christgau, I just want to add that he said basically on this record, they're adding power pop and pop medley moves to art rock casserole. Basically what they did. There are still a little bit of prog tendencies on here.
Yeah, but that's why I like the last 3 songs, because they have Herb Schilt's Mini Moog shows up. He starts to. It's almost like those were leftovers from Citadel.
Could be.
I think they are.
But
I think when the sunshine is really great closer.
So I'm just going to ask what you would rate, because this is such an outlier on the catalog. How would you rate this? If you're just listening to it solely on its own merit, you're not connecting it to STARCASTLE, you're just looking at this as an AOR album, what would you
like what if it was their only album? Like
what if it was their only album? How would you look at it?
I'd give it a 7.
Yeah, I think 7's fair. It's not anywhere near those first 3 records.
No. But then again, hey, look at Klaatu. Their first 3 albums were amazing, and then they put out Endangered Species, where they went down to Los Angeles, and everything was set up for them. The people had already played the music, and all they did was come in like Pet Sounds and sing, and they were not happy.
Well, that, Rand, I was going to bring that up. That should be the next one we tackle.
Yeah, I believe so.
In a couple weeks.
Klaatu would be a lot of fun.
We'll do that. So look for that. We're going to look at the Klaatu catalog. Stay tuned. Who's talking Klaatu? Well, we hear Rand and I are in the warehouse, for God's sakes. Speaking
of who's talking, what about Crack the Sky?
Oh, yeah, we've got a Crack the Sky show in the works. And DC Tune Time will be there. We're going to be talking
fun.
First, we're going to look at the first 4 or the first 2. What did we say?
Didn't you decide it was an album war between the first 2?
Oh, yeah, we're going to look at the first 2, compare contrast.
The debut, for those that don't know anything about Crack the Sky, is called Crack the Sky, and they came out in 1976. And then the second album came out, Animal Notes, in 1977. And we're going to rate those 2. We're going to rate those.
We're going to see, basically, I think the idea for this show was we're looking at 2 records, and we're going to see if that second album avoided the sophomore slump. Because you know, so many bands do. They can't avoid it. They're doomed.
The worst one I've ever heard is Captain Beyond. That first one was so mind-blowing and then sufficiently breathless. We used to call that sufficiently worthless.
We should look at that. Do you have all 3 of those records?
Yeah, I do.
We should look at those after. We should look at Captain Beyond after Klaatu.
Yeah, I've got the one with the lenticular cover where you
All right, I'm writing all this. I'm going to have to write all this down. I really am writing it down.
Yeah. And there was another one that I was trying to talk about. I don't remember now what it was. I thought can I look it up on the phone so I can see our chat?
Yeah, you're fine. All right, so there you go. So we give that a 7 out of 10. After that, the band broke up. They're in shambles. The records don't sell. They gave up, but they did get back together. And they did put another record out. Now that record, to buy it, is not a cheap. It's not a cheap record to buy. But in 2007, they released the album "Song of Times," So it was 3 years after Gary Slater had died 3 years before. Yeah, oh wow, there's a real one.
He's on it. He's on it. They have his bass playing on it.
Yeah.
The cover is by Ed Uninsky, the guy that does the Unitopia albums, but this is done by Annie Haslam.
Wonderful. Oh, look at
She
that.
is just absolutely a goddess. I love her so much.
So,
Yeah, this is hard to get. Huh? I didn't know.
2007.
Great stuff.
I was able to listen to some of it. I couldn't find a whole lot of it, but it pretty much takes, I think it takes off. Well, okay. Let me put it like this. If you forgot Reel to Reel, I'd say that Song of the Times takes off from 1977 Citadel, right? Like if you closed your eyes, Rand, it's just like it picks up where it went.
Yeah, you're right.
But I think Song of Times, I think, has a lot less of that Yes influence. I think it sounds a lot more like, well, maybe the way STARCASTLE sounds. I'm just throwing it out there. I don't know, but
I don't know if you can see that, Grant, but it's the 1994 band.
Okay.
Karen Lawrence.
All right.
That's the one I was thinking about that nobody talks about that could be fun. They only put out 2 albums, but they're good. They're really good albums.
Well, yeah, I'm looking at it. And Gary Strader on this record, he's playing bass except on 3. Yeah, he's all over it.
He played his parts and he died of cancer. He had the same kind of cancer as wait, I don't know if that's true. Hang on. Here's another beautiful picture. Look at this.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. What is that?
I don't know, but it's pretty. Oh, it's a STARCASTLE.
But Terry Luttrell's doing vocals.
I'll just show these as you talk.
I think.
You said these are hard to get, so
yeah, you don't want to lose that. So I'm looking. Is Terry Luttrell only on one track?
Yeah, he's on
track 8.
He's on the track 8 called what is it called?
All for the
All
Thunder.
For the Thunder. Yeah, that's him. Also, he is backup vocals on Master Machine, track 7. But so everything else is Al Lewis.
So was this recorded earlier? Are these outtakes? Do you know anything about this?
I don't know. I never got a chance to find out how they got him on those ones as a guest vocalist. But he was no longer in the band. And I can't read this. The writing on this is just ridiculous. I can't even read it with my eyes. I need a magnifying glass.
Yeah. But it's basically the same band. Gary's on it.
That's a picture right there of Gary Strader with the Alembic bass.
Hold it up higher.
Hang on. I can't see. Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's an Alembic.
Yeah. And you can make it sound just like a Rick.
So it's basically the same band, I do believe. I don't know. You've got.
So yeah, it is the same band. It's reuniting. They reunited, and Gary's dream was to get it done before he died, and apparently he was able to do that. But they finished it after he died, so he had already had his bass parts on there, I guess. And then he's with a new guy named Bruce Botts, who's like the main guy playing
guitar,
writing the songs and playing the guitar and stuff like that. But they still had like the original members, Herb Schultz on it and Steven Hagler,
but you've got a different lead vocalist, Al Lewis, who does all the vocals except for the one track where Terry Luttrell's playing. What's your thoughts on Al Lewis?
Al Lewis is really good. He was in a band or a duet called Alaska, and I listened to some of that on iTunes, and that's really good. I might buy that. Greg Walker's selling that.
All right. So really I think this is a fine record. It just
Al Lewis sings his butt off on this.
Yeah. But this didn't do anything either. This was they put this out themselves, didn't they? It's on prog rock records.
Yeah. It says, to our great friend Gary, with love, we all miss you. Peace.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that,
how do you compare this with the first 3?
Oh, it's very, very close. I mean, I give this a 9.5.
9.5. All right.
There's really no reason not to give it a 10, but I don't want people to think oh God, Rand's just going to give everything a 10. And,
it's not yes, Rand.
It's like a point in every direction. It has no point at all.
But you think this highly of this band that you would highly recommend it
Oh yeah.
if you're into
You like,
prog and
yeah, if you like Yes, you'll like Starcastle. I have no doubt. But I wouldn't start with Reel to Reel.
where would you
It's not
start?
going to sound like Yes.
Where would you start?
I'd start with the debut, just like I did. Starcastle self-titled.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you hear that Lady of the Lake, you know, you
Hmm.
it just draws you in. That I don't know which one it is, but it's one of the guitar players.
Yeah, I can't differentiate who's
I
who.
used to think it was the Mini Moog, but I can hear him later on, and he still has the same sound, and you can hear the pick hitting the string. So
Hmm.
definitely a guitar. And then there's a couple of other things we can bring up too, if you
Yeah,
want to.
go ahead.
Well, you haven't given your ratings on anything yet.
Oh, I think, well, I'm not sure exactly how to rate it
Okay, let's
because this is the thing. I told you
start with the debut. What do you think?
well, I think it's great, but I also think it's a big Yes ripoff.
Well,
I mean, do I deduct points for that?
there's
How
a
can I
band in
not? I cannot not hear it without hearing Yes. It sounds exactly
On
like
our
Yes.
prog show back a few months back, I played a song called Voices by a band called Druid. And they
Mm,
were from England,
yeah.
and their album's called Toward the Sun, and that entire album and the other one, Fluid, sounds just like Yes. And
Mm.
nobody gave them crap for that. You know, if it's
It's
good,
because these guys, where were they from? Druid was,
England,
well, they're from England. These guys
London.
are US.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I mean,
Okay, if I'm looking
they're
at it,
fans. They're
what?
fans of the band I love. So, you know,
Okay. The playing's great. The guitar player sounds like Steve Howe. It sounds like Yes. Terry Luttrell doesn't sound like John Anderson 100%. He sounds great. I'm surprised he can come off sounding like this, but he can bring it. I don't think there's anything that Terry couldn't sing. But is it as good? Is the songwriting as good as anything on a Yes album? That's what we really are trying to decide.
well, I don't know if you
I
have to
don't think
compare
it
them. I think it's a compliment.
it might be, but I'm just asking you, do you think songs are every bit as strong as anything on a Yes album?
Didn't people always say that? I forgot
Because it's like a poor man's Yes, so to speak.
what's the term? Imitation is the sincerest form of
Yeah.
flattery.
But these records back in the day just got
I think they're
mediocre
good songs.
reviews.
Especially the first three albums. There's one tune on there that starts out with drums and then does some really weird stuff with keyboards and stuff. Sometimes they sound like Emerson, Lake and Palmer. They don't always sound like Yes. I'm just talking about his
For the
instrumental.
most part, to me, they do. And as they keep going through their catalog, I think they become yes less. Yes, less. Take
Yes,
say that. Yes.
yes,
They become yes,
less yes,
less like.
less yes like.
Mhm. So, but I guess I would give the first album a 7. I would probably give first 3 because to me, when I listen to them, there's really nothing that distinguishes them apart. They all kind of sound like the same record to me,
Yeah.
and they're solid 7s. You could give them a 10 like you, but I don't think these guys are yes light, and that's not a slam. But if you like Rickenbacker bass, ladies and gentlemen, you'll like these first 3. Um, and then I'm gonna go with Reel to Reel. I would just give this a. It's not bad. I don't think it's a 7. I probably, if I look at it as an album that just is there by itself, it's not part of their catalog. I probably give it a. Mm, I probably give it a 6, I guess. I don't think it's okay. They can play this pop type of music fine. But I don't think the songwriting is quite as good. But now you're talking about that other album, the later record.
Song of Times.
Yes, 2007. I think I'd give it another 7. I just can't give them a 10 because they are so yes-like that it almost looks like they don't have any identity.
I gave it a 9.5.
Yeah. I just can't because yes is yes and these guys aren't yes. That's all. But I think it's well worth having. If you're a Yes fan, you have to have these.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. I want to hear what people think about it in the chat. Down below, let us know what you think about Starcastle. What do you think about these records?
I would say if you're not into prog and you like things like UFO and Thin Lizzy and bands like that from the 70s, you
Mhm.
might like this album. This is an AOR rock and roll album.
Yeah.
But the other stuff is just way out there.
I mean, I might be grading it low. I think for an American prog band, these guys are one of the best.
I think they're great, great band.
I do like the first two Ambrosia albums better because I think those are absolutely brilliant. Engineering, sequencing, songwriting. David Pack sounds great. I love those Ambrosia albums. This is really up there. Happy the Man's a good one, but I like this better than Happy the Man.
Yes, the Urfa is pretty crazy, and they sound a lot like Yes, but they sound a lot more like Happy the Man and Gentle Giant.
Yeah, I like those. Well, I mean, you got Gentle Giant too, so
and also we could do a deep dive
but
here,
they're British, so
we're not done with the catalog. Let's check this out.
go ahead.
Came out a few years later. This is really hard to get. This is called Kronos 1. And this is like early demos that they did before the first album and stuff. And this is really hard to find. I was lucky to get this. This is on Sun Singer Records, which came out at, let me see here, it's a poster. Gary Strader autographed it.
Really? No, I'll be damned. Look at that.
I didn't know he was going to do that. Look at this. This is nice. And let me
oh
see.
my, these aren't cheap at all. Oh my.
Nobody's playing I mean nobody's Gary Strader's not playing bass in the picture. I can't see him playing bass.
He's playing, he's on it. Gary Strader's
There's one guy playing lute.
Who doesn't want I want lute.
You got to have lute. So there's this big like story and everything in the back here. You know, if you can get one of these, go to eBay and see if you can get one. I don't know what it costs, but
Discogs, it's $50.
I got this when the getting was good. And then they actually put out a live album that they didn't authorize anybody to release.
On Renaissance?
On Renaissance. It's called
Yeah,
Concert
but how is
Classic.
it? How is it?
Oh, it's really good. Really good. I'm glad I got it.
Yeah.
But they use the same pictures from the debut, right? And then on the back, they're trying to sell the other albums.
What's the name of that one again?
Concert Classics Volume 5.
Okay.
So they did UK and they did they did all kinds of bands. They did Straubs. I got rid of my Straubs because the Mini Moog was so out of tune. They were playing in Japan, and the guy John Hawken was playing the Mini Moog, and it was out of tune. And I have perfect pitch, and I can't stand things that are out of tune. But yeah, there's a nice song on here that isn't on any of the albums. It's called Breath and Thunder, and this is the only place you can get it on this live album. So if you can grab this, I'd say go for it.
All right.
It's in a different couple, it's in a couple of different formats, but this is the one that I knew about. It's basically a picture from Citadel with clouds around it. But yeah, I mean,
all right, I'll keep my eye out. Oh yeah, I see one. There's one on
albums, man.
There's one on eBay.
Highly recommend get that live.
Oh, look, there's Starcastle's Fountain in the Light. Looks like a Japanese import.
Yeah, the rock candy sounded so good, I couldn't believe it. It was like, holy crap.
All right, cool. You have anything else to add before we wrap it up?
No, just get out there and help Starcastle. I'm sure they could use some people to buy their music and spread it around. And like I said, if you like Yes, and even Styx, when they do their progressive stuff, I think Starcastle fits in real nice with Yes and Styx and bands like that. They're very punk, they're prog, and they're punk, and they're rock. They don't do a lot of ballads. I think that's something we didn't even talk about. There's one ballad on Reel to Reel, Song for Alea, and one ballad on Song of Times, which is called Song of Times. And it's beautiful. It's just a beautiful song, just gorgeous. Kind of like Ripples by Genesis, that kind of beautiful. But Al Lewis he's a great singer. So if you bought that and you like that, you could go ahead and get the Alaska album. I'm going to buy one too. I'm going to have that.
Awesome. All right, cool.
Thanks for having me on.
That was great.
One of my favorite bands. I think this has been fantastic.
Well, hopefully we can turn you on to something. Go check out some Starcastle for yourself. Hey, Rand is prog, and if Rand says it's good, it's good. So we're just trying. Seriously, I'm just saying, you know what you're talking about. We're trying to turn people on to stuff. So next time, stay tuned because we will be doing Clat 2 We will be doing some Captain Beyond, and we also will be doing Crack the Sky. So stay tuned for more of that. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. And if you haven't bought a t-shirt yet, buy a t-shirt. Now I've got hats. Get your Grant Rock Warehouse hat, for God's sakes.
I should buy a GRW t-shirt.
I mean, you're a professional, Rand. You should have one.
I have a STARCASTLE shirt.
That's true.
I did that first.
It's appropriate. All right, everybody. Let's wrap this one up. All right, Rand. Thanks so much. We'll see you on the next show. Please, like I said. All right. Thanks, Rand. We'll see you.
Frog on.
Frog on.